Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I'm here this beautiful Monday morning with Batya Solomon. And we are going to share with you the most powerful and practical tools on empowering your home to be the powerful place it can be, whether you live in a treehouse or a mansion and anything in between. We'll be sharing this whole month. We'll be focusing on creating the home that we want. We're starting today the conversation this month around decluttering the home, and what you'll find, and you know, the spiritual energy. Every week we strive to provide our listeners with the most powerful and practical tools and wisdom to help navigate whatever's coming up this week and this month. This month is actually the month of Virgo. And even though on the Kabbalistic calendar it may differ from the Gregorian calendar, we know that the month of Virgo has us all focusing on detail, on minutia, on dust particles. Even if we're typically not that kind of person, we all become a little Virgo this month, even more so for the people who are Virgos or have Virgo influence in their chart. It will find ourselves all being focused on the details and on the design and on the structure of things and what's working and what's not working. So this month we're focusing on sharing with you wisdom and tools that will help you do that in the space around you. And I think that the best place to start, and Batya, feel free to interrupt me or correct me if needed, but one of the things that the Kabbalists teach about our home is that essentially, and as I mentioned before, it doesn't matter if you live alone, if you live with 20 people, if you own your house, if you rent your house, if your house is a tent or a 20-bedroom structure, that your house is your temple. Your house is the place where you come to rest your energy. And even if, like I said before, you do share your space with other people, your energy comes to rest there. It's the place where you sleep. That's one of the defining characteristics of your home. And when you sleep, your soul, as we've shared in other episodes, and we actually have another episode coming up where we're going to talk about enhancing sleep and the energy when we put our heads on the pillow. But that's where our soul elevates and recharges every night. So one of the things that becomes important in that conversation is what happens, what's the energy in my home when my soul elevates and leaves the physical space? How is my body protected? How is the energy before I ascend and descend? What is the vibe? And I know that's a very popular word these days. What is the vibe that I am allowing or unconsciously preventing from being in my home? And that's one of the things we want to talk about today, is how our physical space is affected by not only our energy, but also the objects, the furniture, even I think one of the things that comes up a lot for people, a student just asked me about this recently, is that her mother-in-law passed away, and they have a lot of her mother-in-law's things in their house. And she was asking, if this person had amazing energy or didn't have amazing energy, is it bringing their energy into my home, even though she's no longer living? And we had an interesting conversation that might become relevant at some point today. But I think that part of what the understanding that we want to achieve today is that if I'm not choosing proactively the energy that I bring in this space, or that I allow in this space, or that I remove from this space, the energy is by default reactive. And when I say reactive, I don't even mean getting angry or getting upset. It means that I'm not actively creating the energy that I want. And whether I like it or not, I can be outside of my home being the most powerful channel of sharing, being the most inspired and inspiring. But when I get home, my energy is going to be diminished, not increased.
Mm-hmm.
So, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. As you're speaking, I'm thinking of the word home in Hebrew. The Aramaic letters that we use is the letter bet. And bet, if you look...
Bait is the word for home?
Yes, I was
going to... Oh, sorry. Okay. I thought you skipped it.
No, I was going to get to it.
Go.
Shoot. But feel free to jump in.
I'm translating
the
for
letter
Batya.
bet, yes, is the beginning of the word bayit. It's also the beginning of the word bracha. It's also the beginning of the word batya. Just throw that in there.
And what does bracha mean, Batya?
A blessing. And if you look at the shape of the letter, you'll see it looks almost like a house. Excuse me. It looks almost like a house. It's got a little roof and a wall and a foundation. A house is meant to be a blessing. And when you walk into someone's home, you get so much information about them.
Embarrassingly enough, yes. You get so much information about them.
Yes, you can get so much information about what kind of person lives there, what's happening in their life. I mean, it's an extension of a person's inner world. And we would like that inner world to be a blessing. So I've gone into people's homes and go, wow, the energy here feels so great. It feels so serene. I just want to be there. In other people's homes, you walk in and you run out like a screaming banshee. I can't take it. Excuse me. So what's the difference between the when the house is, serene and calm and welcoming and inviting, and one that, you just don't want to be there another second? And it really begins from within. It really begins from the fact that, first of all, I've said it before, I'll say it again, we're living in a holographic universe. So everything that is showing up in a physical form is just a density of our internal world. So it'll show up in a physical way. Whatever is happening in our internal world, so the body is the home to the soul, and our homes are the home to our bodies. And it has this reverberating effect. So when our mind is cluttered and our mind is all over the place, it's not in balance, our reactive system is taken over, it's going to show up in the environment. The good news is, if you say to yourself, wow, well, I can't control that. My mind is so reactive and my thoughts are bouncing off the walls of my internal world. What am I going to do about that? Well, here is a really practical opportunity here to actually work backwards. It's like a loop that's connected, the internal and the external. By looking around your home, and if you can't do it internally, like, what attitudes do I have that don't serve me? What are the thoughts that keep circulating in my mind that don't serve me? Now would be a really good time, if you're listening to this, to take a few minutes, and maybe you need to listen to it again on replay, and make a list in your life, seriously, a list in your life internally. What attitudes, what fears, what limited belief systems do I have? And externally, what's happening in my home? Is there that leaky faucet, the light bulb that didn't get changed, the button on the shirt that never got sewn back on, the carpet that I keep complaining about that really needs to be changed, etc. and so forth? If you start to make a list, it'll be first of all, it'll be enlightening, and second of all, when you start to work backwards and start to take care of those unfinished things, you're going to find that it actually is going to affect you internally. Because all of this that we're talking about, a home, it's really just energy that has slowed down in its resonance, you might say, its frequency, and that's showing up as something physical. But the truth is, as we know, there really isn't such a thing as physicality. I know it's beyond the scope of this particular podcast. Okay, we'll stick to the home, though. But still, everything I just said, if you're one of those people, and how do you know you're one of those people that really could use this advice? If in your world, where have you resigned yourself? Where did you just give up? That when you first moved into that home, you first started that relationship, you first started that project, that job, whatever it was, and you saw what's wrong or what could be improved. And over time, you sort of like let it go. You didn't want to fight anymore. You just learned to work around it. When we do that, not only does it show up in our environment, but it actually supports staying stuck in our lives.
When you were talking, the first thing that came to me is I think a lot of people are in that space with themselves, whether physically they don't want to take care of their bodies as much anymore, or they made so much effort in one area that they doesn't even feel like it's worth bothering anymore.
Exactly.
That's, to me, when Batya says, our inner world is a reflection of our outer world and vice versa, what immediately came to my mind is, we all have certain parts of ourselves that we don't like.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's I inherited these ankles from, you know, said parent, or I simply can't lose the weight here, or I don't like the bump in my nose, or I don't know what it is. People have different parts of themselves that they struggle with. We also have those, in a weird way, we also have those spaces in our lives where we do that. And I think that one of the powerful ways to maybe measure or check where we're at with our own space is what parts of your home, and I'm going to use the word home because I know not everybody lives in a house, but what parts of your home do you avoid? Maybe it's a cabinet you don't want to open because there's a leak there, or mildew, or you never clean the fridge because you don't want to deal with it, right? You maybe you have a closet you just toss everything into, and the thought of even opening it is, you know, scary and probably dangerous because things could probably hurt you. But remember that we're not talking about the organization or the tidiness is secondary to the attitude and the energy that we bring there. That's really the place we're starting this conversation, because if you're harboring energy that doesn't serve you, that's going to be reflected in your space, and vice versa. And when I think about, I'm now reflecting on my own life right now, and where I'm avoiding dealing with stuff in my home, it is really true. I am a person that likes to hold on to things. I don't want to say I'm a hoarder, because I like open spaces and clear drawers and cabinets, but I have many, let's put it this way, I have many bins in my home.
Yes, you do.
Full of things that I do not want to throw away.
I noticed.
Artwork, photographs.
You don't throw anything away.
Stuffed animals.
Let's confess here.
Blankies, everybody's first shoes I've kept.
Oh
like
my
I have
God. I'm the opposite.
everybody's school yearbooks. I really like to hold on to things that have emotional value. And I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm sure that or I'm hoping I'm not alone, that there's other people who are listening that they, you know, maybe they're not holding on to every issue of every magazine they've ever bought, but they are holding on to things that remind them of certain people or certain periods in life. And to me, objectively, if I look at myself if I'm observe myself, I realize that I could also go through those bins and toss a lot.
Oh, and you know what would happen? It would so free your energy.
I'm so afraid. As you say it, Batya, I'm thinking,
oh, let me help you.
No.
I'll come over and I'll help you. By the way, I throw everything away. If you come into my house, you know, I like space. I like simple. That's my personality too. I like it straight, as you noticed. I don't like to beat around the bush, so I prefer space. I like simple things. My mother, oh, God rest her soul, you know, she liked these little tchotchkes. She always had these little figurines everywhere, and they were telling each other. She had made up stories. I could not stand it personally. Oh, I should cancel that. I didn't like it. You know, I like a very uncluttered space. But you know what's really funny? I was on your podcast a few weeks ago, and we talked about food. And since then, my refrigerator broke. Talk about space.
Someone wants Batya to declutter her fridge.
Exactly. I decluttered
That's
my
so funny.
fridge. Everything. And I was shocked at how much I hoard food. That's what I'm confessing here, folks. You know, it was crazy how much food I had in the fridge. I throw out
But when you say
food,
food, you mean like ketchup and barbecue sauce and mustard, or you mean like actual cooked
no,
ingredients?
I keep buying the same things thinking, I might run out of it. And then I overstuffed the fridge and the freezer.
That's funny.
The whole thing broke down for a week. I had no refrigeration in my home for a week. Talk about cleaning out energy. Actually, it's been the greatest blessing. And I have a family staying with me during that time, and with 3 small children. It was no picnic, I gotta say. And at the same time, you know, I'm asking myself, and, you know, I encourage you to do the same thing. Why is this in my movie? This is what we teach in Kabbalah 1, right? Why is this in my movie? What's my lesson here? What am I meant to learn from this? And I realize, you know, that I get triggered very easily around, as I spoke in the other podcast, if you haven't listened to it, I recommend you go back and listen to it, how, you know, my previous life in the Holocaust, my parents, Holocaust survivors, my mother the first thing she'd always ask me, you know, if you eaten, what did you eat today? More than anything, not how'd you do in school, did you eat today? What did you eat today? Anyway, so all of that in the fridge breaks down, And now, at first, I went through withdrawal symptoms. You know, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do without a refrigerator? Like panicked. And then it really gave me an opportunity to be free and reset my system, reset myself internally, and realize I really don't need all that food. It's going to take me a long time to get through all of it anyway. So what a great opportunity. You have to understand that everything, as I said before, we live in a holographic universe. What does that mean? That everything that we hold on to, and we don't use it, it just sits there, actually becomes an obstacle. It materializes as an obstacle somewhere, somehow in our life, to the point where you wake up and go, oh my God, I just don't feel like getting out of bed today. I just don't, everything feels like it's too much energy. Oh, it's like, how can I get out of this? How do I get around that? And life becomes an obstacle course that I know people like this. I know, unfortunately, I see people suffering needlessly through their lives because they don't question the areas, the blockages in their life that actually, plan their life around the blockages. The problem with that is the blockages only increase. They don't decrease. How do you get the ball rolling? Go into your closet. If you haven't worn something for the last year, a whole cycle of seasons, get rid of it. I went through my closet a few months ago and got rid of 50% of the clothes in my closet.
I am feeling so exposed.
It's amazing. It was so freeing. It gave myself permission to say no. We talked about restriction in a previous podcast. What is the definition of restriction? I can afford. I can afford to let go of these things. I can afford to let go of clothing
But Batya,
that I don't need anymore.
What if I gain 20 pounds or lose 20 pounds?
Well, you can afford.
I'm playing devil's advocate
I
now.
know. And you can tell yourself that you can afford to wear new clothes. You can afford it. Well, this goes into a whole prosperity conversation. I don't know if you want to go into that, how we manifest.
We'll schedule for another episode
okay.
soon.
Well, however, if you look objectively in your life, how does something come into your life? It comes out of nowhere. You think you're creating it. You think you're manifesting it. It manifests you. You don't manifest it. We have a desire, and if we think about that desire long enough, it eventually shows up in some form, some way. Even if we have a negative desire through fear, if we fear it long enough, it'll show up as well. So cleaning our home out of the things that don't serve us anymore is a tremendously powerful thing to do, especially now in the month of Virgo. It's like the perfect time to do an internal cleaning internally through our attitude. So take an attitude, right? There's an outfit sitting in your closet maybe for the last 10 years. I had a coat that I held on to for like 20 years.
Batya,
I never wore
I have
it.
so much clothing
I know,
that
I've seen your
had
closet.
20. And my biggest complaint about my house, not enough storage space.
No, we'll take this offline later, but I'll be happy to go and help you. Anyway, I'm not particularly a space organizer. I am rising Virgo, confession right there. And so I love organized schedules. I like organized spaces because it creates freedom. It's not repressive. Actually, not organizing is repressive. If you have a home and you have children and you don't have rules, in my house, the way my house stayed clean while raising 4 lively, energetic children, we had a rule in the house. You only eat at the table. There's nobody walks around with food. There's no sitting on the sofa with food. There's no going into your bedroom with food. We only eat at the table. If you have children, train them young. Only eat at the table. If they're too young to sit at the adult table, go to get them a plastic little table, their size, sit at the table. You will thank me for this. I guarantee you it will do tremendous. And it affects the energy. I once went to a friend's house. No names here. I went to a friend's house and her children, she had no rules in the house. And you can see because the house was chaos everywhere. I sat on her sofa, and on the coffee table, there was a smeared peanut butter and jelly. Like, oh, my God, how long do I have to sit here now?
Batya is available to babysit, by the way.
I also double as a super nanny. I'm just letting you know. So it just will simplify your life. Now, what happens to all that energy when you decide I can afford to let go of those things that don't serve me anymore, what's going to happen is that you're going to find suddenly you have way more access to creative energy. Creative energy. This is what we came to the world to be, creators. When energy is stuck and it's now you're going through a minefield of, clothes all over the place and stuff all over the place, and there's too much stuff and there's not enough place to put everything. When you do that, you're actually also sucking the life force out of your own creative well, let's say, that you're deriving from. And where do we get happiness and pleasure? Through our creative channels. This is what gives us a sense of accomplishment as well as happiness. And then we have something to share with other people. So, by the way, one of the best books I've ever read that I want to recommend here is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. She has a TV series, I believe. In her book, she gives fantastic practical tips on how to free up your space. I highly recommend reading it, especially if you have an issue with it. Even if you think you don't have an issue with it, by the way, read her book. I get no compensation whatsoever by recommending her book. I just want to make sure.
Ordering it now while you talk.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm just saying that it's not easy. Let me take that back. It's simple. And chances are, if you're one of these people who are self-confessed hoarder, get a good friend or someone who is the opposite of that, and have them help you go through your. I had a friend of mine went with me through my closet, and I was like, oh, ooh, I was like going through physical pain, and she looked at it. She goes, that doesn't even look good on you. Yeah, but it's so expensive, but it doesn't look good on you, and you never wear it. And that was like, what are you going to get rid of this? That was from the 80s. Like, let's get up to date here. And I have to tell you, I felt so much lighter and so much better. And it also freed up the space to bring more blessings into my life, into my home. Because what is a blessing anyway? A blessing is a circulation of energy. And so when you're when you're feeling stuck, depressed, overwhelmed, you feel like you say the big C word, I can't, which is a big lie. Maybe I don't know how. Maybe I'm feeling overwhelmed, but it's not I can't. Don't allow your mind to even take you there. It's I want to declutter. I want to declutter not only my home, I want to declutter my life. And so when I come home, it's like, oh, I feel so great being in my home. And there's my favorite spots. And it's true, there are spots in my house. I just realized I never go to the roof. There's a little terrace there on the roof, just not my favorite place to be. I can't be it's very hot and sunny there. Not that I'm complaining. I mean, I like that. But I got my favorite comfy chair and my fireplace. I'm in heaven. That's in my little world. So, and that's the place where I like to go to meditate. That's the place where I like to be creative or read or educate myself. It's another thing about your space, by the way. If you do the same thing again and again and again in that space, it's like you build up a bank of energy. So if you're a meditator, which I highly recommend that you be, even for a few minutes, if you read Zohar, if you're, a Kabbalah student, chances are you are, or you're watching this podcast, or you're on Kabbalah.com, and you do it from the same place, and you meditate from that same place, you're actually kind of building a bank of energy. So when you sit in that same seat, it's so much easier to go deeper in your meditations. If someone else sits in that seat, they go like, wow, I really, I have guests, and they all gravitate to that seat when they come to my home because they're feeling the energy of it. Same thing, though, also, if you're having a fight, that energy also is not contrary to that. You got to be careful. We want to also clean out that space. We use sage, copal, you do something to.
We'll talk about that in a few weeks.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. So, it says in the Zohar that the walls have ears, the walls see, the walls of a person's home take in the energy.
They witness.
They witness. And you know what else witnesses? The walls of our heart. So it says about, a king that had made a mistake, and many a couple of thousands of years ago, and he made a mistake. And it said that he wanted to do repentance, which is corruption of the word. That's also beyond this podcast. But anyway, so he felt like he wanted to go in and rethink his life and make new choices. Let's just say it like that. And it says that in the writings, in the scripture, it says that he turned to the wall. And in the commentary in the Zohar, they ask, what wall did he turn to? And it says the walls of his heart. So if you think of the heart, we create the heart of our home with our words, with our thoughts, with our actions. And by taking a few minutes to really think deeply about this, where are the changes that you want to make in your life and what you want to improve in your life? Start with your space. It reminds me also, one of my favorite movies is with Bradley Cooper called Limitless. Did you see that? He takes a pill. If only that pill existed. And, suddenly his mind becomes extremely intelligent and organized. And one of the first things he does when he takes this pill, before that he was a loser, he was a writer, but he couldn't seem to manifest anything, couldn't finish his novel, etc. His house was a mess, his life was a mess. He took the pill, and it was really interesting. In that movie, the first thing he does, he starts cleaning up his space. He's washing his dishes, and he sweeps the floor, and he organizes his space. And I was thinking, when you asked me to come on this podcast, and that was the first thing I thought of. Isn't that interesting? This very, very, super intelligent human being, the first thing he does, he cleans up his space. When you have a clean space, when you have an organized space, it also clears up your mind. So look at your desk. Do you have a desk? Are there papers everywhere? Do you not know where to put things? Another thing you can
I
do.
interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Sometimes I want to represent the other side. There's people who are listening and they're
creatively
thinking,
messy side.
No, well, okay, okay, fine. Call us out like that. But for a lot of people, it's a matter of time, right? There's a lot of people out there, and whether you're talking about your desk or your home, you're running from. You wake up in the morning, you hit the ground running, and you leave the house. People are going back to work these days. You don't get home till late. You got to cook. You got to get, and then at the end of the day, there isn't as much time as we would like for that kind of creative organization, decluttering. You have to, honestly, I'm thinking about what you're saying. I would have to take a week off to accomplish what you're talking about just in my closet. It would be such a project.
For you, it would take a week. For me, it would probably take an hour.
No, but I'm imagining our listeners hearing this and saying, yes, in an ideal world, Batya, my house would be organized, spick and span. Everything would be alphabetized. I'd have those cute little spice racks. I'd have, my cutlery.
But they're degrees.
So I'm thinking my desk happens to be neat, but it's not clean.
I
always feel like I get to the office, I'm running. I don't have time to dust and to, I don't know, dust is what's coming to my mind. I don't go to the office as often as I used to. Those kind of things. It's like, how do you compensate for lack of time? Because I think that's one of the reasons that we're not
lack
more
of time. It's how you use the time you have. If you set up a system, it's all about the system. So everybody has their routine. And the Kabbalists talk about how to create a new habit. You start small and you just little by little change the habit. For example, for those people who again, they hit the ground running and they don't know what to do first, and they're completely reactive to their day. If they're reactive to their day, they're also reactive to their life. If they're reactive to their life, they're not creating. They did not create the space. There's no place in their time, in their world, to express their godlike creative nature, which is life force energy coursing through a person's veins and can manifest and be applied in any area of their life. Now, it begins, for those of you who need a little help with this, start the night before. The night before, what's your schedule going to be? The night before. The other thing is when
I'm
you set up...
exhausted the night before. No, I'm not saying me. I'm saying people. there are people that at the end of the day, they just put their feet up and they fall asleep on the couch because they're so exhausted.
Here's my, as a someone who managed for many years, I will give you the benefit of my experience, and here it is. Let the fires burn. In other words, whatever is going on in your world that's not working, let it go. Don't be reactive to it. Plant a new seed. For 3 minutes before you fall asleep, maybe make a list. Here's my to-do list for tomorrow. If you're the kind of person, that gets your coffee in the morning, set up the coffee on a timer so it gets made. And so while you're getting dressed, the coffee's percolating. Things like this, where you can automate your life. The more you can automate the little things, the more you have free time to do other things. If you're the kind of person that you make your meals every day and you don't have time to make your meals every day, the advice is, prep in advance. If you're feeling reactive to your kids, or your kids are too young and you may need a little help, get the partner involved there, whatever. Give yourself time. You've got to create. It's up to you to create the time to organize yourself for what's happening in the future for that day or for that week, etc. A lot of it, though, if you pay close attention, a lot of time is wasted by walking around all of the stuck places in your home and in your day.
Like navigating around them.
Navigating around them. Mm-hmm. That takes a lot more energy than if the stuff was cleared up. It takes a lot more energy to look for something to wear in an overcrowded closet, and 60% of those clothes you don't even wear anymore anyway, right? Than to have the fewer things you wear, you like, you feel good. How do you know if you want to keep it? You try it on, it feels good, you keep it. You try it on, well, maybe one day I'll be, 20 pounds thinner, or one day, if I lose, if I
come back into style.
It'll come back into, get rid of it. You can afford to get rid of it.
Okay.
You create that
I have
space.
to challenge you again on something else. And I think that maybe...
challenge away.
No, but I think that part of what we want to bring to everybody's awareness is the energy and emotion that physical space and physical objects absorb. That what Batya said before, that our walls bear witness, that our walls have eyes, they absorb energy, and that includes all the things within our walls. Now, I'm sure that the things, as I said, for myself, most of the things that I'm holding on to have emotional significance, or contain a memory, represent a memory. And I believe that most people, the things that they're holding on, I mean, obviously there's exceptions, but most people are holding on to things that either had value or have value.
You mean sentimental value?
Sentimental value, or let me think of, for example, I have tons of photographs also. And my perception is that my children come home, also the ones that don't live with me, they see those pictures and they feel acknowledged, they feel loved, they feel
I get the point here.
Worshipped, let's say.
Worshipped? Okay, acknowledged. Okay.
Acknowledged.
I don't know about worship. But anyway.
But you know what I'm saying?
I have one word for you. Digitize. We have hundreds of family
okay, that works
videos.
For photographs, but that doesn't work for trophies or certificates.
Take pictures of it, because you don't want to schlep it around. They're not going to take it with them. I guarantee your older children, who I personally know, I just don't see your son like taking his trophy with him to his apartment.
Well,
and if he does, let him take it to his apartment.
I have storage in my parents' home of things like that.
And how often do you even look at them? What was the last time
every 10 years or so, we dig it out, we reminisce, and we put it back.
But you could reminisce it in a digital form. It's just it's taking up space.
Help me out here, people.
It's just taking up space. Really. I love the old, we love our family videos. We love to, we just watched a few of them the other day, right? We were sharing them. They're all, and all the photos. And if you're, by the way, if you're one of those, photo takers, right? The people who are, you have your archives and you have to document every moment. I guarantee you, and I challenge you, you probably have like 50 of the same kind of photo to begin with.
I'll just wait.
Subtle postures of the same thing at the same time for the same location. Take one representative photo and get rid of the rest. You don't need it.
Okay.
You don't need it. Those books that your children read when they were 5 years old, they're not going to read them again at 25. Just saying.
Well, I did save them for my now 5-year-old, and I'm saving a lot of money on books.
Well, you're the exception,
Thank
but
you
not
so
everybody
much.
has two
No,
families.
but I'm trying to think of other examples. Like, let's go to my student who her mother-in-law passed away, and her husband brought stuff from his mom's house to their house. What is the value or lack created by holding on to other people's things?
Well, again, I suggest pick those few things that have actual sentimental value. Most of it probably doesn't. It's going to sit there. It's going to collect dust, and that dust comes back with a vengeance.
Energetic dust or physical dust?
Both. It's going to come back with a vengeance. It's stuck energy. It's preventing you from creating more, from having that circuitry of energy in your life. If you're one of those people that are slow, life is slow, nothing seems to happen, and then you're around someone like boom, 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 they make things happen. People who make things happen or have that kind of energy, chances are they've got a lot more in reserve, let's say, or they got a clearer channel because they're not attached. This is a conversation about attachment.
Okay.
Letting go of things. Now, what's the problem with attachment? Attachment is a form of prison. Anything that we are attached to in this world will take us down, will not allow us to ascend in our consciousness or any other way in our life that we can master this world, because attachment is the way we're pulled down, our energy is pulled down according to our attachments. And I invite you to challenge me on this one. When I had my near-death experience, one of the things that I was shown an opportunity. I saw I will just to save time, the representation of the light force of the Creator in the upper world, and I just felt like I just wanted to merge with that energy, and I couldn't. Something was holding me back. And it felt like ropes holding me back. Why couldn't I just merge with that light force energy that was the purpose of my existence? And what I was told and what I saw, because there's no speaking in the once you get out of the body, there's only telepathic communication. These ropes that I created, I forged those ropes to what? My attachments to this world. And so every little thing we have that we hold on to that we cannot take with us is a false attachment. The only thing we can take with us is knowledge, love, compassion, lessons learned, anything of any kind of physical nature. We cannot take it with us. So when we are so attached to it, we actually are taking our creative force energy and we're imprisoning it into these objects. Like my refrigerator, for example. I had no idea how dependent I was on my refrigerator. I never even thought about it. Now my refrigerator's gone. And you need a refrigerator, let's face it, in this day and age. If you want to have a normal routine, let's say. But it showed me, how much, not only was I dependent on my refrigerator, but I was storing stuff. And I was attached to that stuff. And that stuff the energy was so stuck. I think maybe energetically it broke down the refrigerator. I'm not sure.
The fridge couldn't take it anymore.
Couldn't take it anymore.
That's
funny. What an
funny.
incredible lesson for me. And look in your own life. What are you stuffing into your closets? What are you stuffing into your emotions?
You're
what are
bringing
you stuffing into your minds that doesn't serve you anymore?
You're bringing up something I think that's equally as important. And that, I imagine a lot of us out there wait to get home to be ourselves, right? We have this persona that we project to the world. Maybe you're in charge of a team of people and you've got to show up with a smile on your face, or you have an image to maintain. I use these words facetiously, right? We think we have this image to maintain. We think we need to show up in a certain way that's not maybe authentic or not true to who we are. And then when we get home, it's like, then I get to let my hair down. I get to unbutton my jeans. I get to be me. And sometimes that means that what happens in our house is our house becomes a place of self-sabotage. We let ourselves get away with things. We maybe stand in front of actually somebody wrote in the chat in an episode a few weeks ago when we were talking about food, she said, funny, you're talking about this. I stood up with the refrigerator door open the other day and just ate an entire cake. And I love the confession, first of all, because we've all done, we've all been in similar situations. But the point is that in allowing our guard to come down, we bring sometimes an energy of hiding. I'm hiding at home, or I'm stealing. I'm not my best self. Now, I don't mean that you shouldn't let your guard down and be uniquely you at home, but pay attention to the energy that you bring. And I'm going to use the kitchen as an example. We're also coming off of all these weeks of talking about food. It's like, do you cheat at home? Are you outside of the house? You're eating protein bars and salads and smoothies, and then when you get home, you take out the bonbons? No, I'm serious. Think about the energy that happens in the kitchen when you feel like you're stealing or sneaking, or you have to hide. That your home is the only place you can hide in, because what happens is, obviously, having that mindset, that energy, that habit is going to contribute to some degree of self-destruction. But because the walls absorb energy, because the couch absorbs that energy, because the bed absorbs that energy, eventually that reverberation causes a boomerang effect that later on...
Well, we know energy never lies.
Right.
Even if you think you're getting away with it, you feel it. People feel it when they walk into your home.
But it's really our intention with this whole series that we'll rethink what we're bringing into our home, what we're allowing in our home, and what we leave our home with. And if you can imagine creating a space, and maybe this is the assignment, so to speak, for everybody who's listening, not only today, but whenever you could come across this episode 6 months from now, and it's going to be relevant for where you're at right now, is that you think about, in an ideal world, what would my home be like? And maybe you can't afford the Taj Mahal. That's not what we're talking about right now. You have a space, whether it's 1,200 feet or 2,400 feet or 5,000 feet. You have a space where you get to create your energy, your temple, in a way, it's almost like where you recharge your batteries. What kind of energy do you want to be recharging your batteries with? And one of the things we're going to talk about in the coming weeks is different things that you can do, literal tools, physical things you can bring into your home to enhance the energy, artwork, different things that you can do to cleanse, cleanse the energy in your home. So we will be giving you tools. I don't want you to think we're just sharing with you. This is be like us and then figure it out on your own. We're going to give you the knowledge, the source of that knowledge, as well as the tools that you can use to enhance your space. And even for those of you that are saying, well, listen, I'm renting a room in someone else's house. I don't have control over what takes place in the kitchen or the living room. I don't live by myself. It doesn't matter. You are in charge of your impact. You are in charge of what you are in charge of. And what we're talking about, not only today, but probably in every episode of the Weekly Energy Boost, is you taking full responsibility for what you can create, for what you are the creator of, and not allowing yourself to be a victim or the effect of anyone or anything outside of you. That's really what you can. It doesn't matter who lived there before you or who lives with you now. You can be the creator of the energy in your home, in your space, and we are going to work with you the next few weeks on creating that. Batya, as always, thank you for joining me. And please,
one more close. I'd just like to make a closing comment.
Of course.
And until then, I just want to leave you with one practical tool. Go through your house, every inch of your house, and look at all the stuff and ask yourself, hold it in your hands and ask your soul, does this bring me joy? Does this make me happy? If the answer is honestly no, get rid of it. Very simple. Just start there. It doesn't matter that your aunt, Elizabeth or whatever gave it to you, or it's expensive, or what are you going to do with it? Because it doesn't bring you joy, and you're meant to be happy, and you're meant to have everything. When you hold on to things that you should hold on to, that's when you're blocking your good, your greater good, and greater abundance from actually showing up literally at your doorstep. So go through your home, go through your closet, go through all the cabinets or whatever. Does this bring me joy? Does this serve a purpose in my life? If the answer is no, a practical purpose, and you're just holding on to it because you feel guilty getting rid of it, get rid of it. And you will feel the difference immediately. Good luck with that.
All right, everyone else, you'll be doing that with me this week. Be like Batya this week. Let it go. Be like Batya and Elsa. Let it go.
Let it go.
And today was a fabulous starting point. And as I said, we're going to continue the conversation. So please send in your questions, your comments, your thoughts. Continue to share the episode, like, rate, review. And we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.